Sunday morning, 10:15. Sitting in the garden of God. Well, it is the garden of God, but it isn't the garden of this God. It isn't the garden of that God. And you know, as I always frequent these places, I've never ever felt any God emanating from those buildings. I've been in hundreds and hundreds of them all over the world, and I've meditated in them, contemplated in them. I spent a lot of time around them, and I've looked at all the effigies and all of their depictions and their artwork and their symbolism, and I've never felt anything. Why? Because it isn't there. But where do I feel God? I feel God here, in the natural world. God is emanating from everything which is natural. God is even emanating from the stones and the glass which that edifice have been constructed out of. But the actual edifice and the symbolism, to me, isn't emanating any God. What you got? What you got? One of the local cats, he's got himself a little prize, a little mouse. You better stay away from my babies, that's what I'm telling you, buddy. So where does God emanate from? Well, like Jesus said in the book of Thomas, God is within you and God is without. And so God is everywhere. Why? Because the cosmos is conscious. And in the book of Thomas, Jesus is speaking from a very, very different place. And it's that Jesus that I have an adherence to, because it's that Jesus who is speaking like a Gnostic. And the Gnostics say that Jesus was a Gnostic. And he taught Gnosis. He taught all of the secret doctrine of the Gnostics. And the secret doctrine of the Gnostics, people, is about how to escape from this spiritual trap. Now, I'm going to meander around lots of things, but the theme is going to be the same. But first I will speak about where I just went. The other day I spoke to you about somewhere where I just went by taking a certain something. This morning I went to a place for about an hour where I never took anything. I just sat here, closed my eyes, closed down my consciousness, and was just aware. Aware of the dream, aware of the rustling of the trees, the gentle breeze, the squirrels and the birds, aware of the sun, the warmth on my face, aware of my shifting dreamlike consciousness, entering into fleeting moments of thought and then exiting again out into the abyss, where I would say I momentarily lose consciousness, and then my consciousness comes back online, and I realize when my consciousness came back online because it wasn't there before. But I never realized when I'd slipped into the unconscious of a deep meditation, you see. So for those of you that are proficient in meditation, then you'll know what I'm speaking about. But I would think it's very, very, very few. And I have never had any indication that any of you have ever managed to realize the things I'm speaking about from this dimension, and tell a little bit of a story or something that you experience. It never happens. And so maybe you're all closet meditators. But if I was to look on Rupert Spearer's channel, then everybody would be, oh, when I meditate, oh, I this and I that, and oh, I'm so kind and loving, and I'm so compassionate. You'd get all that. Don't get a single bit of that on my channel. Fear that your eyes would be burned out. You see, the awakened brave is a very complex creature. And you'll see videos randomly, you will never know when they're coming, when you will suffer my wrath. You will suffer the wrath of Supercilious, and he will be telling you exactly what he thinks of you. And if the hat fits, then you wear it. If it doesn't, it washes over you. But let us get back now to this meditation thing. If you can, if you have the opportunity, if you have the facility to have somewhere like this, where in suburbia it's the best you're going to get for peace. Now there's a plane in the sky now, but because it's Sunday morning, I come out here sometimes 8 AM and onwards, and there's barely even a car on the road, so you don't hear anything except the natural world, and that's a wonderful, incredible thing. But if you don't have a beautiful secret garden like I do, then maybe the best thing that you've got is a veranda or a roof or your garden, which isn't that secret or beautiful. I don't know. This is a beautiful area. It's got a beautiful level of peace and tranquility about it. And I attribute that because it hasn't been frequented by human energy. It's nothing to do with the garden being in the house of God. That building doesn't give this ground any tranquility. It doesn't bestow anything spiritual onto it. And all of these bones in the ground don't provide any feeling of tranquility either. It's simply because there has been no traffic of the human being. There's no energy, because energy permeates people. Energy hangs thick in the air. And because there's been no crimes in here, no fights, no violence, no aggression, because it is a burial ground to put people at rest in their final peace, then it carries that energy. And so that aids then to the facility of slipping into a deeper meditation. But having said that, I've meditated all over the world in many, many curious places. In churches, in cathedrals, in very old buildings, in very modern cities, in tranquil little towns and marketplaces, on the top of mountains, on beaches, in forests, all over the place. And you can get into this place regardless of where you are. And one of the things I like to do in particular is to meditate in a little park or on one of these park benches, one of these municipal benches, next to a fountain or next to a few trees, you know, these little gardens, say like in Portugal. Portugal has lots of these little places, and you can listen to all the cars and vehicles going by. You can listen to the tinkling of teaspoons on china cups at the outside cafes, and a little bit of a chit chat in a foreign language which I don't understand, and so it means nothing to me. So I listen to a little bit of chit chat. I listen and I count how many times they stir the cup and how many times they ting 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 on the side, and then they put it down in the saucer, and every time they pick the cup up and put it back down, I'm so finely tuned into everything that's going on. Because what happens is, people, when you close this down, when you close the egoic mind down and you're only observing, then you hear everything in the finest of details. You can hear all different sorts of birds communicating with each other throughout the canopies, hundreds of yards apart. So when I go into this space, and one of the things I think that we need to address, people, if you're going to be able to get into this space, is that you have to have a pure body. Because if you don't have a pure body, then there's going to be resistance there. And if you have cravings for caffeine and nicotine and any other substance or variety of food or activity that you partake in, when these cravings call upon you, then it's like you have a fish hook attached to you, and the line is constantly pulling at you and niggling at you. And it isn't until you have severed all of these hooks and fishing lines with your addictions and your anxieties and your fears and your hate and your concerns and your worries, all these things, because these are little fish lines pulling, and invariably, when you attempt to still the mind, your worries will appear, your addictions will appear, your hates will appear, your fears will appear, and all of these things heavily prevent you from entering into that realm. So we have to, like the Buddhists say, peel away the layers of the onion. We have to get rid of all of our shit until we come down to the pure essence of what we are. And when you are fit and healthy and your body is functioning perfectly, you feel a gentle satiation of a buzzing and a glow throughout the whole body. Even now, I'm feeling the energy throughout my whole body. And this is because I'm very, very finely tuned. And some people, if you concentrate, you can say, oh, I can feel the energy in my hands. Can you feel the energy in your whole body, glowing like you are an astral being? Because you are. And so it's this throbbing, this tingling, this buzzing, which maybe is the astral body. Maybe it's the spirit. And so when you enter into this place, and there is no ego, there's no thoughts, there is an awareness which it never seems to stop. It's just a gentle movement. Because I've been meditating for an hour, the body is still buzzing, and You see, because I've been doing it for so long, 15 years now, I just sit down, close my eyes, and within seconds, the thoughts are gone. And even on occasions when I think to myself that, oh, let me think about this whilst I'm in here, because when you have satiated the ego and you're in a very, very still place, you can solve problems because you can see them with the greatest of clarity, and you can see the answers and the resolve with the greatest of clarity. So sometimes I like to sit and think through and see what direction I should follow. But there are times when I say to myself, well, let me think about this, and I can't, because I've exited the ego, and it just says no. No. Why? Because something is enjoying it. Something is being nurtured by it. The soul is being nurtured by it, and the soul doesn't want the ego to spoil that. See, when you get involved in spirituality, people, you become very acquainted with all of your varieties of bodies. Now, the overseer to the human experience, which is God, which is consciousness, which is awareness, which is everything, which is the creator, that's spirit. Then, under the spirit in the hierarchical system, you have, I would think, the astral body. And then, below that, then you have the soul, which is the operating system for the human existence. And then below that, you have the ego, which is the operating system, only on a lower level. The ego is like a program on a computer like Windows 10, let's say. But then if you upload more refined packages, then that's the soul. So the soul is more refined packages pertaining to the ego, and the ego is the base operating system. It's like the computer without a program uploaded onto it for it to facilitate. And so we have a relationship with the ego, the soul, the astral body, and the spirit. And then we have a relationship with other energies. There's many, many other energies that we can feel, that we can participate in. And I think they're innumerable. And in my life, I've encountered many, from one polarity to the next. And within them, of course, you've got love and you've got hate, and all in between. All different varieties of energies which participate like tools within the human experience. So, if you can do that, you can find the kingdom of God. Because the kingdom of God isn't somewhere where you're going to go when you die. The kingdom of God is a state of consciousness. And that state of consciousness you can achieve here on earth. The Buddhists find it. The Kabbalists find it. Because the Kabbalists are very, very deeply rooted in meditation, and communion with God. And they know that when they meditate, they commune with God, you see. And the Kabbalists are over and above any level of Judaism. They're almost like the Gnostics. I would think they are Gnostics. And I'm not sure who they really believe in, because it's quite plain to see that the Catholic Church doesn't believe in Yahweh, Jehovah, due to all of the symbolism that's around there. So there's some fakery going on there, people. And lots of people would say that they are actually Luciferian. And so all these subjects, of course, are very, very deep. But I want to touch on Gnosticism a little bit. Last night I was listening to another one of these Alex O'Connor of Within Reason podcasts, and he was speaking with a biblical scholar, a philologist, which is someone that studies language, ancient languages and that, compiled with sort of like, you know, being a historian. And they were speaking about the recent discovery of the book of Judas. Now, it's very fragmented and it's very, very difficult to understand, even with the greatest of scholars. But there are certain sectors in there which are very, very curious. And they come from a Gnostic perspective. And so this is one of the inferences whereby Jesus is said to have been a Gnostic. And in lots of places, even in the New Testament, there is verses which speak about Jesus not throwing pearls to swine. He has one discourse for the idiots and another discourse for the Gnostics, the real information. There's no real information in the Bible, people. It's like it's fragmented. It's like there's only the odd word or verse or line put in there, which just doesn't mean anything. It doesn't take you anywhere. So that's why you have to be versed in these Gnostic scriptures and the 2 million scrolls which are in the vault of the Vatican, by the way. And so, but this Gnosticism is a belief or a knowing that the God of the Old Testament was a demiurge. He is an evil God. If he's not evil, he's stupid, unsophisticated, because of his contradiction. So contradictory. Everything about him is a contradiction. And all the stupid stuff that goes on, like in the book of Job. Job says, why do you do this? I've been a solid, good person, devoted to you all my life. And Jehovah goes, because I can, because I'm God. And then when Job has a problem with that, Jehovah, Yahweh, says, who the fuck are you? I'm God, I do what the fuck I want. It's disgusting and it's vile. And still you get these idiot biblical scholars trying to make silk purses out of pigs' ears. Throughout the whole of the corpus of the Old and New Testament, you've got these wannabe cretinous fools that, you know, want to be important and to be able to see the benevolence in all of this vile and disgusting stuff from that book which we know as the Bible. But the Gnostics never stood for any of that bullshit. The Gnostics knew what Yahweh was, demiurge. The Anunnaki knew what Yahweh was, demiurge. And so we can see very, very plainly that this world is run by a demiurge, not a real God, not a benevolent, all-encompassing, wonderful God. No, a very confused, malicious, vile, violent, hateful creature. And so the Gnostics state then that this God created this like prison environment to trap souls in. And the Gnostics say that there are only a few of us soulful people here, people, or spirited people. Let me say spirited people. They've trapped our spirits. Let me not confuse the soul with the spirit here. So they've trapped our spirit, and we have to find a way out. I wonder if it is the soul or is the spirit. I don't know enough about Gnosticism. I haven't studied it that deep. I don't really know. You see, because when you listen to scripture, invariably spirit and soul is interchanged. But the Bible is very clear about the distinction between the soul and the spirit. And spirit pertains to God, but what God? Yahweh or the real God? This is the thing. I'm going to assume that the soul has been trapped. And if the soul has been trapped, then there's influences that the soul can go to other dimensions. And if that's the case, then we take the essence of who we are with us. It's kind of like astral travelling. When you astral travel, you take the essence of who you are with you, and you have an awareness of your soul being temporarily within another being, because you can't see yourself when you enter into the astral. But I've been into places whereby people have engaged with me as if they've known me forever, and I'm assuming that, well, because I've entered, like John Malkovich, into somebody else's consciousness, my soul has entered into another body. And we know that different souls and spirits can enter into us because they come and go. You can feel them come and you can feel them leave, and all this different sort of stuff. So this spiritual realm is really, really complex. But these Gnostics, they say that this is a prison planet, and this is down to us, these trapped spirits or souls, to find our way out by studying the Gnostic scriptures and deciphering the mostly indecipherable. But now then, here's the thing, people. For those of you that are stimulated by this conversation and haven't glazed over and turned off or whatever, which is probably the vast majority, but those that are real seekers, those that are seers, then you'll be intrigued by what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is now is that the Gnostics say that there's only a few spirited or soulful people, and we have to try to exit this dimension, which is run by Yaldabaoth, the evil demiurge. And to where we exit to is back to the plane where we don't have a physical body, like an astral realm of some description, because it's the physical body that gives rise to suffering, you see. So this physical realm gives rise to suffering, and when I've been into the astral, well, there's no notion of suffering there, because the astral being can't suffer. It just can't suffer because it isn't physical. And so when I exit my body in my astral body and I go somewhere, I'm absolutely confident that no harm can ever come to me, even though there's nefarious creatures there. None have been overtly malicious, like evil, but they're just pains. They're just pains in the ass. shadow beings and things like that, but they don't have any courage, they don't have any power, and very quickly you can supersede them. And, if you're not afraid of them and don't come back into the body, if you pursue them, then they leave, you see, then you can go on to a higher level. So what I'm thinking that the Gnostics mean when they are speaking about how you can exit this trap, I think it's down to interpretation, and I would like to read more, and I will, about Gnosticism to see where it actually states that you've got to escape this physical paradigm. Because if we look at it as a metaphor, then some of us will know how to escape it being here. Now, how do we escape the trappings of the physical dimension and all of the so-called laws which pertain to it? Now, the human being is given to evil, and the whole world, I suppose, is given to evil because ultimately it is trying to kill you. So much of it is trying to kill you, so therefore it must be at least 50% evil, ready to take your life at the drop of a hat. And we only have to look around this graveyard to see very young people whose lives were taken in whatever circumstances. We have no idea. But what I'm saying is that, look, if you are absolutely embroiled in being a human being, bound by the trappings of the powers that be, which manipulate societies into enslaving us and keeping us terrified and traumatized and in states of anxiety and all that, if you are subject to that, and the vast majority of you are, then you would feel certainly that this dimension has a good deal of evil to it. And maybe fleetingly you will find some love and some beauty when you are not suffering, you're not traumatized, you're not in a state of anxiety and all this sort of stuff. So what I've been speaking about throughout many of my videos over all these years, how you can do this, and how you do it is by doing, you know, one of the things is what I have done. You don't have to do it my way, you can do it, you know, a variant of your way, but it most certainly, like many people who wake up, their lives change. They no longer want to participate in the matrix, and invariably many of them won't work, and if they do, they'll do something for themselves, just to, you know, scratch by with a basic living, and they will live solitary lives, and they invariably won't have partners, too much monkey business, they won't have hardly any friends, and they just won't get involved. And when you do that, you sever all of these hooks and lines. You sever relationship hooks, you sever vocation hooks, you sever the anxiety, you sever the fear, you sever the threat, you sever all the annoyances. For those of you that kind of like live so-called full lives with friends and work colleagues and mixing with people in town, on buses and tubes and in cafes, and encountering this shitfest, all of you doing that, you are carrying a massive amount of weight, and you'll never realize how much you're carrying until you no longer carry it. Now, if anybody's really interested in my spiritual journey, then I've written about it in some considerable detail in my book. And it's not just about me, it's about the journey. It's about the dark night of the soul journey. It's about the hero's journey. It's about the waking up journey. It's about being terrified by the evil journey. It's about encounters with God, Jesus and angels journey. It's about the entheogen journey. It's just a massive amount of information. And so for those of you with addictions. Those of you with attachments, with all different sorts of things, jobs and cars and your own property, which you have to replace the windows, you have to replace the bathroom, you have to replace the flooring, you have to call the plumber when the water tank's burst and it's pissing through the ceiling, and all these sort of things. All these things cause you anxiety. Whereas for my instance, I don't have to worry about anything. Every single thing about the apartment I live is catered for by the owners, and the owner is the government. So there isn't any particular landlord that's going to be breaking my balls about anything. And every single thing that goes wrong with that apartment, I just get on the phone, and then they send the man. And that's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Can you imagine how wonderful that is? Then men come to mow the lawns and to trim the bushes and to clear out the gutters and to mend any of the paving stones that are a little bit wobbly and all that sort of thing. And miraculously, the waste bins are emptied every week and all these other sort of things. So when you live a life like that, people, then there is very, very little friction that you are liable to encounter. And if you don't go on a bus, you're not going to be smelling anybody, you're not going to be listening to anybody, you're not going to be bumping into anybody, you're not going to be looking with revolt at anybody, you're just not being involved with it. And if you don't have a boss that's telling you, hey, where have you been? You're 5 minutes late from your break. What? If you stand for that, well, you're happy in your slavery. You've completely resigned yourself to it. Now, what certain intellectuals say about modern society is that, look, in the old days, people used to really look for freedom. And with the encroachment of modern societies, we found it ever increasingly more difficult to find our freedom, because we have to be complicit with societal norms and, get jobs and fend for yourselves and all that sort of thing. But it doesn't have to be that way in these modern societies, because there's avenues where you can slip within like a snug bug. You can slip within the fleece of the beast. You see, people? Can you imagine? Look how cuddly I am. I'm nicely cuddled and snuggled in the fleece of the beast. Whereas the vast majority of people, they're at the mercy of the beast, of the gnashing of the teeth and the claws, ever ready to swipe at them. And so, but in the old days, when people were looking for freedom, to be free would be very, very difficult, because if you could be completely free, you'd need to live on your own. And then, it's not exactly practical to live on your own, because there's lots of times you need other human beings to help you do things. And if you get ill in any big way, to cater for you and things like that. So we've built societies around us, and we suffer the trappings of it now, the pros and cons. But more and more what's happening, you'll see from the left political perspective, is that people, they still want their freedom. And what they've done now is they've perverted their own minds into hypnotizing themselves that they actually do have freedom, and their freedom is within the realm of these societies, because they put the blinkers on to their slavery. They put the blinkers on to their mouths being stitched up. They put the blinkers on any of the social conventions that they have to adhere to, so people don't say, hey, you, what are you doing? Look at how easy it is to fall out of favour with the drones of society. You know, let's say 20 years ago, if you were transvestite or homosexual or, you know, some sort of beggar or miscreant, then, you know, you'd suffer the brunt of society. But now, you see, because there's so many of these people, what this newfangled society have done, they are encompassing all these people and then self-hypnotizing themselves to consider that we're all free. We're all free. You can be free, you can be gay, you can be trans, you can be pedo, you can be a vagabond, you can be anything you want to be within this newfangled postmodernist way of life where anything goes, because we're all free, you know. But look how free we really are in the fiction of the freedom. And that's the thing that's laughable. That's what the postmodernists, the leftists, are doing. They are forever closing everybody down into their little cesspool of what they call freedom. Isn't it bizarre? And say they want everybody to be free. They don't want anybody to be persecuted in any shape or form. And so, well, what do? They cancel people who say mean things. Or they cancel anyone who is bordering on what they invent as hate speech. And so anybody that potentially could make a few people uncomfortable, then they're cancelled. Cancel, 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 cancel. It's like whack-a-mole. Poof, 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 poof. It's never ending. Trying to whack 'em all. The people with rational minds, the people who have a few intelligent thoughts and can see what's going on. The stupefaction, the festering of human society now, whereby we're all supposedly being conditioned into a pulp of oneness. And in that pulp of oneness, we can't have any opinions, we can't have any biases, we can't have any pet hates, we can't have any of those things. No. And so we can see them, as far as the demiurge is concerned, well, human spirit has been killed. Like Nietzsche said, when he said God was dead, well, I think he meant spirit's dead. The spirit in the people are dead. Because they've fallen into complicity with their slavery. So, how do you escape it? Well, you sever all these ties wherever you can, and you know, I don't know what lives you have. I know some of you've headed for the bush. Some of you live in, you know, solitude and isolation. You found your little niche to do that. And you know, you pretty well fend for yourself with your small holding, with your allotments, and maybe keep chickens and this sort of thing. You know, you manage to feed yourself a little bit like that. But one of the greatest things that we have to do if we are going to sever ourselves and free our minds, people, is we really do have to cut off from family, as well as friends and colleagues and associates and society. So society is the first thing that has to go. That's easy, to stop going to bars and cafes and theatres and all this sort of stuff. You just don't mix with them. And then you come back to your colleagues and, you know, associates. Well, if you don't do that stupid job, then you don't have to involve yourself with them. Then you come back to your circle of friends. And it's kind of like, are they really my friends? Well, not anymore, because we are on different trajectories now. So you sever them back. And then you come back to your family and you go, well, just because they're my family, do I actually like any of them? Do I get on with any of them? And if you do, if you have a great relationship with some of them and they understand you in your present state, fair enough, but invariably the vast majority, if not all of them, won't. And so therefore you sever. And those of you that have been frequent viewers of my videos for a long time, you'll know all these encounters that I've had. And those of you that have read my book, you will see how it's come about. And then some of you will look at me as a complete non-conformist, making videos and meditating and experiencing entheogens in graveyards. You would think that I'm a very bizarre creature, but there are few people that you will meet on the planet which would be on point as me, in a level of reasoning, a level of logic, an application of sense, and deep, rich understanding, inner standing, a connection with the vastness of the cosmos and the spirit realm, and then the soul realm and the astral realm and the egoic realm and the realms of evil and the realms of love, and all these things, they're all compiled into the awakened brave. Some of you realize that, others look at me thinking that I'm mad, because you don't glean where I'm coming from. But people, it took a lifetime for me to be where I am, with an enormous amount of global travel, with thousands of books read and hundreds of thousands of hours spent listening to documentaries and debates and people's opinions and all different sorts of stuff about the world. But you see, we don't have to find this Gnostic secret in these scriptures to be able to exit, because I don't believe there's anywhere really to exit. I believe it's all different paradigms and dimensions of consciousness. And so we can find evil right here, right now. We can find love right here, right now. And everything else in between. We don't need to escape and go anywhere different, people. It's all within consciousness. And so, if you want to escape the nefarious Yaldabaoth, Yahweh, Jehovah, Allah, Muhammad, any of those, if you want to escape them, then you retreat back away from all those trappings. And so you find yourself an occupation that doesn't burden you, or not. Lots of you have found the other route. It's an incredible route, one for nothing. So whatever way you do it, you retreat away from all of the drama, because even if you, oh, it's my family, oh, you know, I can't just tell them not to this and not to that, I can't just not answer their phones, and I can't fall out with them, well, it's my family. Well, that's your failing, that's your burden. And if you want to continue to burden yourself just because you consider that you share the same blood, well, that's a deficit to you, because I'm pretty sure we would all have had family members which are pretty toxic, and there's always going to be some shit that's going down somewhere, which, when it happens, people, it takes you out of the kingdom of God. It takes you out of this still heart, this tranquil, calm buzzing that we have in our bodies. It takes us out of our empty mind. It takes us out of the realm whereby we only need to think about things that please us or we really need to address, to do a bit of shopping, a bit of cooking, a bit of cleaning. The rest of the time is given to hedonism, to the pursuits of pleasure. It's very Epicurean. And if you're in the pursuits of pleasure via reading or playing an instrument, or like what I do, you know, practicing my singing, you know, weight training, cycling, bit of yoga, all these sort of things, if you are immersed in those, and then you get a knock on the door, which people know not to do, nobody does it. Nobody will do it. The only person who's given a license to do that is my daughter. To break all of my conventions, all of my impositions on the world. There's only one person that's allowed to contravene any of those. But when other people do, when other people just knock on your door and come round and bring their toxic energy with them, fills the whole place. You can feel it. It's tangible. Tangible. Whenever you meet somebody in the street, you can feel it. When you become spiritual, people, when you have emancipated yourself away from all of that, then you get to know this. You get to know how this really is. When it's not filled with all those negative, evil, demonic spirits and attachments. Because words and people's vibrations will penetrate you, will latch onto you unless you're very, very careful and know how to protect yourselves. In my book I speak how to protect yourselves, people, from these gremlins, I call them. And so, if you eliminate, it's a process of elimination. When you eliminate all that stuff which you thought was important to you, and you may think that you have to do it when you don't have to do it, and it really isn't important, you just think it is. But when you come away from all that, and you look upon me, and you see how I live, and you can see that I'm a perfectly functioning human being. I'm perfectly sane. I know what's going on. I've made lots of choices about how I live my life, or not. Maybe it's just been my destiny. Maybe it's just my programming from the cosmos, from the genetics, from my social upbringing, all these sort of things, because I don't believe in free will. And so it's, you know, what have I actually done? Have I actually done anything? I probably haven't done anything. I probably haven't really made any choices. I've just been guided. And then I often say to you, why me? Why am I getting all these spiritual things, which even the most religious of people, chaplains and all different sorts, I've had nothing like what I've had. Why am I having all those things? It's nothing of my volition. I haven't tried to have any of these things. And so I just consider that all my life I really have been guided. And as to why, as to where ultimately, I don't know. But what I do know is that it's a very, very peaceful and pleasant place most of the time. But every now and again it appears that the cosmos wants to give me another lesson. It wants to take me on another adventure. And so I'm whisked away on another adventure. And these adventures are incredible, absolutely incredible. And you learn an enormous amount. It seems that that's what it's about. It seems that something wants me to know lots of things. And so here I am. And who knows what the next step of the adventure is going to be. But I reckon I have 33 years left, because I've sort of said to myself that I'll exit this place at 93. I think 93 will do me, unless I choose otherwise, if I become unhappy with it. If I'm suffering too much with all the things that we suffer from being old. If my spirit isn't destined to stay any longer. Who knows? So we can exit it, people. We can find this absolute stillness, this beautiful, dreamy place. It's just so wonderful. For those of you that haven't experienced what I'm speaking about, just kind of imagine that you're in a children's fairy tale and Tinkerbell's sprinkled some of her stardust on you and you just become light and all the trappings of being an adult disappear and you become a beautiful free child again. Yeah. With the wonder of the world, with the inquisitive nature, but without the burdens of the painful experiences that we have with the world and people and our bodies. And so this is why it's always in my life been very, very important to keep a very high level of fitness. It's paying off to keep my mind nurtured with the meditation and the influx of beneficial information and to have experiences all around the world with different creeds and cultures and peoples and things to become rich with life. And now to have stepped outside of it and to be free from that and to wake up in the morning absolutely still with an empty mind, not burdened with what you've got to do. Am I going to be late? Ooh, what's my boss going to be like today? What's her indoors mood going to be like? Nothing, people. Just this. Just cosmic consciousness. Cosmic consciousness comes back online. And it goes, wow. What am I going to do today? Anyway, I suppose you get my point. You don't have to go anywhere. There's no heaven to go to. There's no hell to go to. There's no escaping out of this firmament into another dimension of consciousness and being. It's all here. I've left the body. I've left the body right here. I've seen other dimensions right here. I've not gone anywhere. In my entheogenic experiences, it's all happened right here. This is where it's going on. It's just a fallacy to think that you've got to go somewhere else. You don't. And so as soon as you break that nut, then you can go, well, look, it's all about being now. So what am I going to do now? How am I going to think now? How am I going to operate now? What am I going to do? What energy am I going to utilize now? And then, if you have a choice, then you choose. And if you don't have a choice, then you think you choose. This is the great debate for free will. We just really don't know. We really don't know. But mostly it seems that it is a notion of thinking and wanting to have free will that enables people to have that belief, because it's only a belief. It is only a belief, people. Like everything else here, it's only a belief. And so if you believe that you have free will, and you could say, oh, you have free will to come into this graveyard this morning, Aaron, and make this video. Did I? Did I? How can you say that? Well, you just thought about it. Where did the thoughts come from? What? Who planted the thoughts for me to come to do this? I'm always telling you, it's a compulsion of mine to speak with you, to do this. I'm always saying it's not something that I've chosen for a vocation or hobby. It's just something that manifests as soon as I woke up. And so I say to myself, well, it must be one of the duties that I have to perform. For me to be blessed as I am, then I have to give other spirits the opportunity to be more concerned, discerning about their path, to think more. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's my job here, to offer you, the viewer, the few of you in the world. And it doesn't matter how many videos I get. There's got to be 8. Yeah, it's got to be getting on 800 now. I don't know, 750 videos. And yet the viewership never gets above like 300. Very, very rarely does it get like up to 500. Why aren't any of my videos going viral? Why aren't they getting 10,000 views? They're just not getting through the algorithms. And it's not necessarily that the algorithms are nefarious, but I do think that bad language will prevent you from getting through the algorithms. Of course, certain things I speak about prevent me getting through the algorithms. The way I look prevents me from getting through the algorithms, because people look at me, if I come up in their feed and go, ugh. It's their loss. Of course it's their loss, isn't it? And many things, many reasons, due to the fickle nature of the vast majority of human beings. They want things to be the same all the time. They want to go to a channel where they know what they're going to get. For instance, if I tune into Within Reason, or if I tune into Jordan Peterson channel, or Douglas Murray, I know what I'm going to get. I don't think I'm going to be coming upon him talking about his pet squirrel. I don't think I'm going to be coming upon them speaking about foraging for wild foods. I don't think I'm going to be coming upon them fucking cussing to the whole world. They're on a level, aren't they? They're just on a level, on a thin sliver. And that's what most people like. They like to be able to think that they choose this thin sliver, that thin sliver, that thin sliver. Because my realm is too vast. It's too out there. It's too incomprehensible. You know, how I shift from this to that. How can you do that? How can you go from this energy to that energy? How can you speak about this thing and then that thing? Completely contradictory subject matters in lots of instances. How is it that you will speak about the same subject matter from the perspective of the people that are doing it to us, to then the perspective that are having it done to them, and then a perspective which is outside of both of that? Well, I suppose it depends on how broad your consciousness is, doesn't it? Or how intent you are to sell your wares. I'm not selling anything, am I? Like all these other people out there, they're selling. Every day they're selling. And the amount of work they put into the production of their videos, astronomical. I would have to, you know, go to university to learn how to do all this shit that people do online. All this graphic manipulation and fuck knows what else. I wouldn't know where to start, I'm telling you. Just don't have the aptitude. And so, you know, it is what it is. And for whatever reason, I'll just go you. 100 of you, 200 of you. And the vast majority of you don't even get through all of the videos. You'll click here, you'll click on there, you'll click on something else. And you know, the worst thing is, the most stupid thing really is that you do. If I put up a video in 2 or 3 parts, you go to the end one. You just want the answer. Oh, just give me the answer. It's like just going to the last page in the book. Fools do that. Idiots do that. Oh, I just want to know what the answer is. Oh, it's kind of like a cooking video. You just go to the last video of the actual presentation of the food. Oh, that's what it looks like. Oh, that looks nice. And that's all you're interested in. That looks nice. You're not interested in, you know, how to cook it, how to prepare it. The wisdom impartation along the journey, most of you, isn't it? So, anyway, it's clouding over now, as the forecast said it would, so that's why I came out early, and I'm going to continue with the other things that I do during my day. One of them is my fitness, another one is my singing lessons, another one is my guitar playing, and another one is my reading, another one is going to be my afternoon meditation to 432 hertz. Then I have to prepare my food. Oh wow, I'm busy.